Leela never expected tonight to be anything more than quiet. She was home alone, the house unusually still, and a soft drizzle tapped against the windows. The kind of night that made you feel safe and a little lonely at the same time. She curled up on the couch with a blanket, a cup of tea in her hands, thinking the evening would pass in calm silence. Her phone buzzed suddenly, a text from her friend, Emily. "Hey, just a heads up, my brother might drop by tonight. He's in town unexpectedly." Lila frowned. She had met Emily's brother only a couple of times, a polite, quiet guy named Daniel, nothing more. And now he might just appear, unannounced. The sound of footsteps on the porch made her heart jump. She glanced through the window, expecting maybe a neighbor. But it was Daniel. He looked around 26, taller than she remembered, and his dark hair was damp from the rain. He smiled, a little awkwardly, holding an umbrella. "Hi, Leela. Sorry to just show up like this," he said. His voice was calm, reassuring. "It's okay. Come in," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She led him to the living room, noticing how different he seemed from the last time she had seen him. More at ease, almost. Thoughtful. They sat down. Lila handed him a towel for his hair, and for a moment they just looked at each other, the kind of silence that didn't feel heavy but full of unspoken questions. Daniel's eyes seemed to carry a story she didn't yet know. "Thanks for letting me come by," he said quietly. "I didn't want to bother you, really." "You're not a bother," Leela said. "It's just unexpected, that's all." He nodded, looking out the window at the rain. "Life has a way of surprising you sometimes, huh?" The conversation started small, polite, but gradually grew warmer. They shared stories from their childhood, laughable embarrassments, and quiet confessions about work stress and dreams. Leela realized she hadn't expected to enjoy talking to him so much, especially on a night she thought would be dull. A clock ticked past 8:30, and a strange comfort settled over the room. Daniel had this calm energy that seemed to shift the atmosphere in subtle ways. Leela found herself relaxing, feeling oddly drawn to him without understanding why. At one point, Daniel reached for his cup of tea and caught her hand lightly. It wasn't intentional, he said, just brushing. But the warmth of it lingered. Lila felt her heart flutter, a gentle spark she wasn't ready to name. She laughed softly at something he said, noticing how his gaze lingered a second longer than it probably should have. The storm outside was louder now, wind rattling the windows, but inside it felt like a different world, quiet, safe, yet tinged with something undefined. Hours slipped by unnoticed. Daniel spoke about his travels, the little joys of living in a new city, the people he had met along the way. Lila listened, captivated, her earlier nervousness melting into a comfortable connection she hadn't expected. Then, just as she was about to pour another cup of tea, Daniel paused and looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. It was soft, searching, almost like he was holding something back. The sudden knock of the rain on the roof seemed to echo their silence. Neither moved for a moment, just staring, hearts quietly skipping beats in tandem. It was as if the world had shrunk around them, leaving only this calm yet charged space. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. And in that brief, almost perfect pause, Leela wondered if tonight might change everything she thought she knew about connection, about timing, about the quiet magic of unexpected moments. But before she could even voice the thought, Daniel shifted, his gaze dropping to the floor. Something had changed in the way he carried himself, subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough to make Lila's chest tighten. The rain had slowed to a steady drizzle, but the room still felt cocooned in the soft gray light filtering through the curtains. Daniel was quiet now, his usual warmth replaced by a contemplative stillness. Lila couldn't tell if it was something he was holding back or if he was just tired from the sudden trip. "I didn't expect to come home and find you here," he finally said, his voice low. "It's strange, in a good way." Leela smiled, unsure how to respond. "I guess life likes throwing little surprises at us. Sometimes annoying, sometimes not so bad." He chuckled softly. "Definitely not so bad tonight." The way he said it made her heart skip. There was an honesty in his tone that made her feel like he was sharing something deeper, something he couldn't quite put into words. They moved to the couch, sitting a little closer now, drawn together by the soft, unspoken rhythm of conversation. Lila found herself noticing small things. The way his hand rested lightly on the edge of the cushion, how his eyes held hers for a fraction longer than usual. It was subtle, but the warmth it carried was unmistakable. Daniel leaned back and sighed, looking out at the rain. "I don't come home often," he admitted. "Being back here, it's reminding me of things I've missed. Family, friends, moments I didn't realize I valued until they weren't right in front of me." Leela nodded, understanding more than she thought she would. "Sometimes it takes leaving to see what really matters," she said softly. There was a pause, but it didn't feel awkward. The rain created a rhythm outside that mirrored the quiet thrum of their hearts inside. Lila sipped her tea, feeling the warmth spread through her chest, mingling with a subtle tension she didn't quite understand. "You know," Daniel began, "I always thought you were brave, funny, smart, someone who could handle life with this quiet strength. Seeing you now, I realize I might have underestimated just how much you carry." The compliment made Leela flush. She tried to brush it off with a small laugh, but her fingers lingered on her cup. "I just get by," she murmured, though the truth was she had always admired the calm assurance in him too, the way he seemed to know when to speak and when to just be present. Daniel tilted his head, studying her face. "No, you do more than just get by. You hold things together without showing how much it costs you, and I respect that more than I can say." It was quiet after that, filled only with the rain and the occasional creak of the old house settling. Lila felt something shift, a soft pull between them, like a gentle current moving under the surface. "Do you ever think about what could have been?" Daniel asked suddenly. His voice was hesitant, almost fragile. Leela froze for a moment, surprised by the question. She wasn't sure how to answer. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but I think about now more, about what's in front of me." He nodded slowly, as if weighing her words. Then, with a small, almost shy smile, he reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from her face. The contact was brief, but it sent a warmth spiraling through her chest. "I didn't mean to," he started, then stopped, letting the sentence hang between them. Lila shook her head gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's nice." A sudden flash of lightning lit up the sky outside, followed by a soft rumble of thunder. The room seemed smaller in that light, the distance between them shrinking further. Leela felt a flutter of something unspoken, something fragile and tender that neither of them dared to name aloud. Minutes passed. They didn't speak, only shared small glances and soft smiles. It was a moment that stretched, delicate and electric, holding the promise of something neither of them could predict. Then Daniel stood abruptly, reaching for his jacket. Leela blinked, a pang of confusion tightening her chest. "I should probably go," he said quietly, though his eyes lingered on hers longer than necessary. "I didn't expect to stay this long. I didn't expect tonight to feel like this." Leela's heart sank slightly. "It's okay," she said softly, though she didn't want him to leave. He hesitated, looking out the window at the rain-soaked street, then back at her. There was a weight in his gaze, a mix of something he wanted to say and something he feared would change everything. As he opened the door, the sound of the rain outside felt louder somehow, echoing the quiet tension that had settled between them. Leela watched him leave, her chest heavy with the unspoken words lingering in the air. And in that quiet house, with only the ticking clock and the rain as witnesses, she realized tonight might not be over. Not for them, not for what had begun in the soft, unexpected shift of calm. The next morning, the house felt emptier than usual. Leela sat by the kitchen window, watching the street glisten from last night's rain. Her mind kept replaying the moments with Daniel, the soft touches, the quiet smiles, the way his presence had changed the rhythm of her evening. She poured herself a cup of coffee and tried to shake off the lingering warmth that stayed in her chest. It was strange, almost unsettling, to feel so affected by someone she had only known casually before. Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Thanks for last night. I didn't realize I needed that calm until I felt it. Hope you have a good day." Leela's lips curved into a small smile. The message was simple, yet it carried a depth she couldn't ignore. She typed a quick reply. "Glad you came by. Take care today." She tried to focus on her work, but her thoughts kept drifting. She wondered what had really prompted Daniel to visit, to stay longer than expected, to share parts of himself he rarely let anyone see. There was something genuine about him, something she felt she could trust, something rare. By late afternoon, she decided to take a walk. The air was crisp, the remnants of rain forming tiny puddles on the sidewalks. As she wandered, she realized she was hoping, maybe unconsciously, to see him again. The thought made her heart beat a little faster. It wasn't long before she ran into him at a small cafe near the park. He was seated alone, a book in his hands, but the moment he saw her, his face lit up in a way that made her chest tighten. "Leela," he said softly, standing to greet her, "I wasn't expecting to run into you." "I could say the same," she replied, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all," she said, sliding into the seat. For a while, they talked casually, about work, family, and the small details of everyday life. But the air between them carried the same subtle charge from last night, a quiet anticipation neither dared to name. Daniel paused, stirring his coffee slowly. "Last night, I don't usually open up like that, but it felt different with you." His words were careful, honest. Leela felt a rush of warmth. "I felt it too," she admitted. "It was comfortable, easy, like I could just be myself without pretending." He smiled, that thoughtful smile that lingered in her memory. "I don't know what this means exactly," he said, "but I want to see more nights like that, more moments like that, with you." Her heart fluttered. She wanted to say yes immediately, but something held her back, a cautious hope, a fear of moving too fast. Instead, she nodded, letting the sentiment linger between them, unspoken but understood. They left the cafe together, walking side by side through the park. The world around them was alive with autumn colors, golden leaves swirling at their feet. It was beautiful, but the quiet closeness between them made it feel even more vivid. "You know," Daniel said suddenly, stopping near a bench, "I've always admired how you see the world. Calm, steady, even when everything else feels chaotic." Leela looked at him, surprised by the depth of his words. "I try," she said softly, her voice betraying a hint of emotion. He reached out, gently taking her hand. This time, it wasn't accidental. It was intentional, a quiet acknowledgement of the connection forming between them. Leela's heart raced, but it felt right. They stayed there for a long moment, watching the leaves fall, the silence stretching between them, not empty, but full of possibility. Then Daniel's phone rang, breaking the spell. He glanced at it reluctantly. "I have to go," he said, a shadow of frustration crossing his face. "Work stuff." "I understand," Leela replied, though a small pang of disappointment struck her. He lingered a moment longer, holding her hand before letting go. "Tomorrow?" he asked, hopeful. Leela nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Tomorrow." As he walked away, she realized that the calm she had felt last night wasn't gone. It had shifted, transformed into a quiet anticipation of what could be, what might bloom between them if they allowed it. She watched him disappear down the street, her heart full of questions, her mind swirling with possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, she felt the thrill of uncertainty. Not fear, but the kind that made life feel alive. The following evening, Lila found herself pacing the living room, checking the clock more times than she cared to admit. Daniel had promised to visit again, and she couldn't stop thinking about how the night would unfold. Her nerves buzzed with anticipation, yet a quiet excitement underlined every heartbeat. At precisely 7:15, the doorbell rang. Leela's stomach tightened. She opened the door to find Daniel standing there, his damp jacket from the evening drizzle clinging slightly to his shoulders. His smile was warm, familiar, and yet there was something new in his eyes, a kind of intent that made her chest flutter. "Hey," he said softly. "Hope I'm not too early." "Not at all," Leela replied, stepping aside. "Come in." He entered, shaking off his jacket, and for a moment they stood in the hallway, just looking at each other. There was a comfortable silence, yet it carried a quiet electricity neither could ignore. They moved to the living room, settling on the couch with cups of tea in hand. This time, the conversation was easier, flowing naturally. Leela laughed at his stories, and he smiled at the little details she shared about her day. Each laugh, each glance, felt like a thread weaving them closer together. "I've been thinking about last night," Daniel said after a pause, his voice quieter now. "About how easy it felt, being here with you. I don't usually open up like that." Leela's heart skipped. "Neither do I," she admitted softly. "But it felt right, like it was meant to be a calm moment, just for us." He reached out, his fingers brushing hers. This time, it wasn't tentative. It was steady, deliberate, as if he wanted her to feel the certainty of his presence. Lila's chest warmed, a fluttering sensation she hadn't felt in years. The rain outside started again, pattering softly against the windows. It was a gentle, rhythmic sound that matched the quiet pulse of the room. Daniel leaned back, eyes locked on hers. "Leela, I feel something with you. Something I can't explain, but it feels real." Her breath caught. "I feel it too," she whispered. For a long moment, they simply sat there, letting the unspoken words hang between them. Lila felt the space shrink, the connection grow stronger, undeniable. She realized that what had started as a simple visit had transformed into something deeper, something that neither of them wanted to label too quickly, but both recognized in their hearts. Daniel's gaze softened. "I don't want this night to end yet, not like this." Leela nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Me neither." They moved closer, the distance between them disappearing. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't rushed. It was a natural gravitation, a silent acknowledgement of feelings they both had tried to ignore. And yet, it wasn't about pressure or urgency. It was about being present, being with each other in the quiet comfort of the moment. Hours passed unnoticed. The rain continued outside, but inside, time seemed suspended. Their hands brushed, their laughter mingled with quiet conversation, and every glance carried a depth neither had anticipated. Lila realized how much she had missed this kind of connection, the kind that made the world fade, leaving only the person in front of you. At some point, Daniel leaned back, resting his head against the couch. "I didn't expect to find this tonight," he murmured, "but I'm glad I did." Lila smiled softly, feeling a gentle warmth spread through her chest. "Me too." The room was quiet again, the only sound the rain outside and the soft ticking of the clock. Lila felt a mix of contentment and longing, knowing that this calm shift between them was fragile yet precious. But then, a soft knock at the window startled them both. Lila turned, her heart skipping a beat. Outside, the shadows of the evening seemed darker, the drizzle making the glass glisten. She didn't recognize the figure, but Daniel tensed, his hand brushing hers protectively. "Who?" she began, but the words caught in her throat. The moment felt sudden, sharp, as if reality had intruded on their quiet world. The figure outside remained still, watching. Lila's pulse quickened. She could feel the shift, the calm they had built now mixed with uncertainty, with the hint of something unexpected about to enter their night. Daniel stood slowly, his presence steady but alert. "Stay here," he said quietly, though the protective edge in his voice made her feel both safe and anxious. Lila nodded, clutching her blanket a little tighter. The warmth between them felt fragile now, overshadowed by the unknown outside the window. And as they both stared at the figure beyond the glass, Lila realized that tonight's calm shift might be about to face a test neither of them had anticipated, one that could change everything they were just beginning to explore. The figure outside finally stepped back from the window, revealing itself more clearly in the dim glow of the porch light. It was only a neighbor checking on the storm, but for a moment the tension had made the room feel impossibly small. Lila exhaled, realizing how tightly she had been holding her breath. Daniel returned to the couch, brushing off the sudden spike of adrenaline with a small, reassuring smile. "False alarm," he said lightly, though his hand remained near hers. The warmth of his presence immediately eased her tension. They sat together in quiet for a few moments, letting the rain outside provide a gentle soundtrack to their shared calm. The night had already shifted in unexpected ways, and yet somehow it felt right, like every twist and pause had led them here, to this fragile, comforting moment. "I'm glad you came back tonight," Lila said softly, "even with the rain and everything else." Daniel's gaze met hers, steady and warm. "I'm glad too. I feel like we found something real, even in just a few hours." Her heart fluttered at his words. She realized that it wasn't just the calm or the connection that mattered. It was the honesty between them, the way they had allowed themselves to be seen without fear or pretense. The storm outside had slowed to a gentle drizzle, and they decided to make a small fire in the fireplace. The flickering light cast soft shadows across the room, and the warmth it offered mirrored the quiet contentment that had settled between them. They spoke in low voices, sharing stories and dreams, and every so often their hands brushed. Each touch was a silent reassurance, a quiet acknowledgement of feelings neither had rushed to name, but both understood. Daniel leaned back, resting his head against the couch and watching her. "You have a way of making even the simplest things feel important," he said quietly. Lila smiled, her chest tightening in a way she didn't try to hide. "And you make the unexpected feel like it was meant to happen." There was a pause, comfortable and gentle, before Daniel tilted his head slightly. "Leela, I don't want this night to end without telling you something." She looked at him, curious and cautious. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. I care about you, more than I thought I could care for someone so quickly, and I don't want to ignore it, even if it feels sudden." Leela felt warmth spread through her chest. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "I care about you too," she whispered. "And maybe it's not about how fast it happens. Maybe it's about knowing when it feels right." He smiled, relief and tenderness in his eyes. "Exactly." For the rest of the evening, they stayed close, speaking softly, laughing quietly, and simply enjoying the presence of one another. The rain faded, leaving behind a clear, crisp night sky. Outside, the world was calm, but inside, a quiet excitement lingered, a feeling of the dinnings, of possibilities, of something real taking shape. Eventually, Daniel stood to leave, but this time there was no hesitation, no distance between them. He leaned down, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Tomorrow?" he asked softly. Leela nodded, smiling. "Tomorrow." As he walked out the door, she watched him disappear into the night, her heart full, her thoughts alive with hope and anticipation. She realized that the calm shift of tonight had grown into something more, a connection that was genuine, tender, and worth exploring. Alone in the quiet house, Leela sank into the couch with a soft sigh. The storm had passed, but the warmth of the night lingered, a gentle reminder that some surprises weren't just interruptions, they were beginnings. And as she looked out at the starry sky, she knew that this was only the start of something beautiful, something that neither of them could have planned, but both were ready to embrace. The calm had shifted, but it had led to a heart-opening moment neither would forget. The night felt endless in the best possible way, and for the first time in a long while, Lila felt completely, quietly alive.